Of traditional media, viewing habits of TV have declined rapidly in the last decade, and the trend of cord cutting continues. Do you own or run a business in South Jersey? Then you need the expertise of Town Square Media. Our capabilities of radio and digital advertising will drive results as we do for all of our clients throughout the region. Let us produce your unfair share of customers by creating a solution for your business. The combination of radio and digital is an extremely powerful mix, and we can deliver your message directly to your target audience over the air or online. You know, social media surrounds us each day, and it's great to have a presence on Facebook, but that is not a marketing strategy for your business. 97.3 ESPN can help build your brand, increase sales, and give your business the boost it needs this summer. Call Jim McLean at 609-645-9797 and let his team at Town Square Media create a plan that will be delivered to your target market no matter where or how they consume media.
Sports is what we do.
You're in your car, you're in your house, you're wherever you are. You're a sports fan.
97.3 ESPN.
Because if you weren't a sports fan, you wouldn't be listening.
WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Monday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. The Phillies win the weekend. The Sixers saga rolls on. And we are counting down the days to the start of NFL training camps. Let's go. Power Hour here on 97.3 ESPN. As always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. That is the text board. Also, your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Coming up on today's show, we will talk with Bryan, Toporek, the co-host of the NBA podcast and writer for Forbes Sports. Joel Embiid, well, he spoke not recently, apparently. This video, and this is, I'll get into more detail about this Joel Embiid thing. But this video came out over the weekend. Apparently, it happened almost a week ago, what Joel Embiid said. We'll get into what it means. Also, the NBA offseason, because we're kind of coming down to the real lull for the NBA, which is going to be this week. After the summer league ends, barring any major moves on the Harden or Lillard front, the NBA kind of goes on vacation. They kind of go on hiatus. So we will get some more NBA thoughts from Bryan Toporek. But first, I want to start with the Phillies here on Game Night, and you join the conversation on the Sixers, the Phillies, and more at 609-403-0973. That is a text board. You also get DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. You know, watching the Phillies game on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I walked away really feeling like this Phillies team is starting to find their groove. I saw a Phillies team this weekend that overcame awkward situations. They found a way to work around things. And I walked away feeling very confident that this Phillies team is finding themselves. I think that watching them win the games on Saturday, you know, the way Schwarber's finally hitting again, the way Rojas performed in the second, actually both games, I should say, the amazing defensive play he had in the first game and the other defensive play he had in the second game was something special to watch. And then Sunday's game, rain delay, you know, you already got 2 games. You could have walked away with a split, and they found a way to fight, and win the game in the 12th inning. So for me, I tend to look at this weekend as a huge positive for the Phillies. It was a huge moment, And it wasn't just one guy, not to go all Jason Kelsey on you, but it kind of was the whole team. It was Schwarber's bat waking up, right? It was Harper finally getting out of the home run slump. It was the fact that Wheeler went out there, didn't have the perfect game, didn't pitch his best, right? And he still helped the team find a way to get the win. Even though he didn't factor into the decision necessarily, he still gave you a quality start. You look at what Walker and Suarez did on Saturday, 2 major opportunities for you to really just go out there and show the world that you are still one of the best teams in the National League. Because when you go around the National League, you realize that this Phillies team is not what some people try to act like it is. We were talking about earlier today on the Sports Bash about how there are some people who just, no matter what happens, they have this negative view of the Phillies. Well, at this point in the season, they already have more wins than they did at this point last year. And looking at the standings right now, they're a half a game out of the third wild card spot. You basically kicked the Padres to the curb. You might have sent the Padres into a tailspin that could lead them to be sellers at the deadline. This Padres team, they just don't look right. For all the talent that they have, you got a team with arguably three of the top 20 players in baseball. In Manny Machado, Juan Soto, and Fernando Tatis Jr. You have 2 of the better pitchers in all of baseball in Yu Darvish and Blake Snell. You have one of the best closers in all of baseball in Josh Hader. And you're 44-50. For all the complaining people done about the Phillies have 51 wins. The Padres have 44. And 3 of the Padres' losses are thanks to you. Right now, when you look at the National League, the teams that are ahead of you in the standings, the Diamondbacks, you've beaten them multiple times this year. The Marlins, a team that struggles to score offensively, and as some analytics people have pointed out, the analytics say that the Marlins should not win that many games in the second half because they had an easier strength of schedule in the first half of the season. And the Giants have a good pitching staff, not a great pitching staff. And so the question is, can the Giants pitching staff hold up for the entire second half of the season? In fact, the Phillies have a better pitching staff than the Giants do from top to bottom. And when you look around the National League, you realize the team right behind you in the wild card standings, the Cincinnati Reds, are still a team trying to find themselves. They're going to have to make a trade or two at the deadline to stay competitive for the National League Central. The Brewers look like a team that is the embodiment of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, for goodness sake. And then the Dodgers, they're very good. They're just not the Dodgers we're used to seeing as good as always because they have some more injuries to their pitching staff than usual. So where does that leave the Phillies? Well, if the Braves are the best team in the National League, I don't think anyone can argue that, and the Dodgers are the second best team in the National League, who's the third? I'm serious. Who is the third best team in the National League? Is it the Giants? I mean, the Giants have a pretty good pitching staff. But when you look at their hitters, it's nothing elite. Michael Conforto leads the Giants in home runs this year. He has 13. He leads the team in home runs, and he has 13. Schwarber almost has double number of home runs that Michael Conforto does. That's how ridiculous it is. Look, their pitching staff is really good, but do we really believe that Alex Cobb and Logan Webb are going to carry that team to the promised land? This was a team and the Giants that needed a guy like Carlos Rondon in the past to put them in a position to even compete down the stretch for a playoff spot. Is it the Marlins? Look, I'll be realistic with you. I don't believe in the Marlins. I think any team that has a guy hitting 380, but they struggle to score runs consistently, I think it's a huge negative against them. The Marlins are not a great offense, and they just got smashed by the Baltimore Orioles. 3 straight losses to a very good Orioles team in Baltimore. And in that series, over 3 games, the Marlins combined to score 11 runs. I don't care how good the Orioles are. If you're one of the better teams in the National League, you better score more than 11 runs in a series. I mean, for goodness sake. I think the Phillies scored 11 runs on Saturday altogether. The Marlins offense is very difficult to watch at times. And just because Arias and Soler are having good seasons doesn't mean much to me. The Phillies may very well be the 3rd best team in the National League. Because unless you think the Giants pitching staff is better than the Phillies, which it's not, or their offense is better than the Phillies, which it's not, then the Phillies are the better team. Phillies have beaten Diamondbacks multiple times this year. And even the Diamondbacks have a very, very, very good 1-2 punch at the top of their rotation. And even though their offense is very good, it's the rest of their team. That bullpen of the Diamondbacks, it's not great. The Diamondbacks have allowed 441 runs this year. That is the 2nd most runs of any team in playoff contention. Only second to the Reds, whose pitching staff is worse than the Diamondbacks. So I'm telling you, you can make an argument that the Phillies are the 3rd best team in the National League. Because when you look around the league, the Marlins, the Brewers, the Reds, the Giants, and the Diamondbacks all have some major flaws. And they all have flaws in areas where the Phillies are better. The Phillies are the better power hitting team than the Giants. The Phillies score more runs than the Marlins. The Phillies have better pitching than the Reds. The Phillies have better pitching depth than the Diamondbacks. They have better pitching depth than the Giants. So why can't they be the 3rd best team? It's not always just about record. It's about what you see on the field. The Marlins are going to struggle in the second half of the season. And as the playoffs get closer and the trade deadline is just weeks away, I think the Phillies are going to rise to the top of the heap. Watch them. Because coming up, the Phillies' schedule is very interesting. You just took out the Padres. Now you got a Milwaukee team that you're realistically in a good position to beat at least 2 of the 3 games. Then you have Cleveland. At Cleveland, I know you got to travel to Cleveland. It's a little not great situation, but you could definitely beat the Guardians 2 out of 3. The Guardians are a team that's boom or bust. They're either slugging a homers and scoring a bunch of runs, or they're not, basically. The Orioles are going to be a tough matchup next Monday through Wednesday at home. But then you got the flailing Pirates at the end of the month heading into the deadline. And then you travel to Miami to play a Marlins team that by the point that you get to them on August 1st, you may be in a position to take advantage of them. I'm sorry, July 31st and August 1st. You may be in a position to take advantage of them. Then you got Kansas City and Washington and Minnesota. if you play your cards right, you could get to that Giants series on August 21st and be neck and neck with them for the number one wild card spot. Again, if you can name me a team that's better than the Phillies, who's not the Braves or the Dodgers, let me know. 609-403-0973 is the text board. You also can DM the show through 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Coming up the other side, Joel Embiid, will he win a championship in Philadelphia? We'll ask Bryan Toporek coming up next here on 973 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Monday night.
You haven't downloaded the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app? Well, go get it now to follow all the Philly sports teams at 97.3ESPN.com. Powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
0, 0, 0. Get your zeros here. That's a zipper zero zilcha.
No, that's not it. Get low APR financing at Matt Platt Nissan with 0 interest on every new Nissan in stock.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Platt Nissan.
Put 0 down, pay 0% financing, or make 0 payments for 90 days on every Matt Platt Nissan in stock. Plus, with your job clearing $450 per week at Matt Platt Nissan, you're virtually approved. If other dealers are telling you that you're stuck in a loan or lease, AJ the Trade Man can get you released, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, and you can't buy a new ride anywhere else with peace of mind, like Matt Platt Nissan's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Only at MattPlattNissan.com. On approved Tier 1 credit through NEMAC. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle plus tax tag and $589 doc fee. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattPlattNissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 8/6/2023. It's on at Matt Platt Nissan, the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, it's Mike Gill. Trio North Wildwood, a casual fine dining restaurant in North Wildwood, is the perfect spot for a memorable meal. Chef-driven and quality-focused, featuring American cuisine with a global flair. Enjoy their delicious dishes and impeccable service in a warm and inviting atmosphere. Whether you're looking for a romantic dinner for two or a night out with friends, Trio North Wildwood has something for everyone. 700 New Jersey Avenue in North Wildwood. Make your reservations on Resy today and experience the best in casual fine dining. Chef-driven, quality-focused. TrioNW.com.
Hi?
Afternoon. Atlantic City Electric here to install your new smart meter.
Did I order a new meter?
No, we're replacing old meters in South Jersey with new smart meters.
What's the catch?
No catch, just more insight and functionality.
Which means?
Soon, you'll have even more reliable electric service and new tools and programs to help you save energy and money.
Yep, that's smart. Learn more about smart meters at AtlanticCityElectric.com/SEN.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Kind of like choosing Derek Jeter as the pinch hitter for your baseball team.
Jeter, you're in. We need a home run.
I'll give it a try. I've swung a bat once or twice.
That's out of here. Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
With GMF financing to qualified buyers, excludes Corvette, excludes fire sales.
This is it. The time has come for Bennett Chevrolet's biggest sale of the year. Bennett's Summer Sell Down Spectacular. First off, you get Bennett's exclusive GM supplier employee pricing on new Chevys. Yes, you pay what we pay, not a penny more. And unlike many other dealers, Bennett doesn't charge over MSRP. In fact, you can even get a new Chevy at thousands below MSRP. And there's available 1.9% financing. Looking for used? Our selection's never been better. Right now, Bennett is paying a record $10,000 minimum for any clunker towards any pre-owned in stock. That's a minimum 10 grand for satisfaction, not how much you spend. So there's never any hassles or pressure. July is jumping all month long at Bennett Chevrolet during our summer sell-down spectacular. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
You're listening to Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Joel Embiid is the latest addition to the 76ers off-season saga. You know, it's been a good deal with James Harden. Is he staying? Is he going? Now we got people just finding anytime Joel Embiid speaks and turning it into a statement about something. What do we believe? What do we not believe? Well, we'll ask Bryan Toporek here as we are kind of coming to the end of the unofficial end of the NBA offseason with the Summer League wrapping up tonight. And Bryan Toporek joins us now here on Game Night on 97.3. Bryan, welcome back. How you doing today?
Thank you, Josh. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So what was your take on this Joel Embiid? I want to win a championship with the Sixers or anywhere, really, because when you go back and dig up the actual original question by Maverick Carter at the event, he wasn't asking Joel about anything except for like, hey, Joel, well, what's next for you? Tell us what's going on. And Joel's answer was, well, I want to win a championship. And, you know, when you put the question together with the answer, it seems pretty innocuous, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm surprised by the amount of surprise because this isn't even the first time he's alluded to something like this. It went relatively unnoticed because it was in the midst of, you know, the regular season that just ended right before the playoffs, right before he got named MVP. He spoke with Mark Spears of Anscape, and, you know, Mark Spears asked him, what would it mean to bring a championship to Philly? Embiid says, you know, it would mean everything. I've always said it would be nice to play for one team for your whole career. It would be fun, but sometimes you also want new challenges. So, you know, he's been at least like somewhat publicly flirting with this idea for a couple months. And, you know, I wonder how much seeing Damian Lillard's patience run out in Portland, seeing Bradley Beal's patience run out in Washington after all these years where they're talking about how faithful they are, how loyal they are to their respective teams. And frankly, I think, you know, if the Sixers were set up like Jokic's Denver Nuggets or even the Milwaukee Bucks, or if they had won a championship in recent years, maybe it's different. But, you know, if you look at where the Sixers are with this Harden saga looming over them right now, they don't have a ton of assets moving forward. They've already traded 2 of their next 4 first-round picks. They don't have many second-round picks. They have Tyrese Maxey, who's their lone blue-chip prospect. But really, the asset trove that they accumulated during the process is long gone at this point. So I couldn't blame Embiid for looking around and being like, hey, is it going to happen here? And if not, what does that mean for me?
But is that Joel Embiid's personality? Is his personality the guy to be like Anthony Davis and James Harden and all these other guys to be like, I don't want to be here, get me out of here? Like, is that really his personality? Because he seems to be more like a guy who's like, I want to be in Philadelphia. I'm invested in this thing in Philadelphia. Or is the issue not the Sixers? Because the reporting from Sam Amick from The Athletic last week was, hey, James Harden's problem isn't Embiid. It isn't Josh Harris. It's Daryl Morey. That the friendship with Morey has deteriorated. So could Daryl Morey be also the reason why Joel Embiid gets disenfranchised, for lack of a better term, with Philadelphia?
I don't think that would be it. If anything, I think you'd have to point a couple front office regimes back to see how they kind of wasted all of those assets especially from like 2016 to 2019. But, you know, the end result is the same. We're here. They don't have a lot of ways to improve the team. They seem to be angling to maintain as much financial flexibility next summer as possible, depending on what they do. You know, the reports are they're not going to extend Tyrese Maxey this summer. So if they clear their books outside of Embiid and Maxey, you know, they could be looking at $50-60 million of cap space, which is probably their last opportunity to carve out that much room, at least for the rest of Embiid's tenure in Philadelphia. So, I don't think, like, I would be surprised if we wake up tomorrow and there's a Woj bomb saying Joel Embiid has requested a trade. Like, I think he's probably where Damian Lillard was last summer, where it's like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's see if they can get James Harden back, because it sounds like he genuinely wants James Harden return. If not, what do they get for James Harden? What do they do if they manage to carve out 50 or 60 million in cap space next summer? What do they do with that? Do they land, a third star? Do they land Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, LeBron James all have player options next summer? Can they land one of those guys? And if they strike out like what we saw with the Blazers this year, where it's like, we got Scoot Henderson. We tried to get you a co-star Dame. It just didn't work out. Then I think next summer, Embiid probably takes a much more serious look at like, is this the right fit for me long-term? Or, at a certain point, it might just be best for both parties to go their separate ways. Like there's only so much sense in ramming your head against the wall of we can't get past the second round over and over and over again. And if we see this year, new head coach and Nick Nurse, like if they've run into the same problems, maybe it's just best for Embiid to move on, the Sixers to get a ton of assets in return for him to have a better chance to win a championship elsewhere. Like there should not be hard feelings if that is the ultimate outcome here.
Oh boy. Bryan Toporek joining us here on the Elite Acura hotline here on 97.3 ESPN. All right. You said a lot there. So I'm going to try to process some of it. All right. All right. Here, let me start with this. So my read on the Maxey situation was that they've kind of made a side agreement with him that they're going to give him the money next year because if they gave it to him this year, it would kill them in the luxury tax, similar to like Draymond Green taking about like what, the $7 million less for the Warriors this year. So they save $40 million in the luxury tax. Like people don't realize that Draymond Green is literally doing the Warriors the greatest favor of all time. They're going to take care of him. Don't worry about what his salary is. Like they're going to give him private planes for the rest of his life for goodness sake. And I'm sure Josh Harris, who, by the way, unofficially just got approved today for the ownership of the Washington Commanders, I'm sure Josh Harris can come up with some side deal for Tyrese Maxey for not getting the money this year or getting it next year. So I kind of treat the Maxey thing like that'll be taken care of next year.
Yeah.
But the Embiid thing is interesting for this reason. I have brought this up before, Bryan, and I'm gonna bring it to you because you brought us down this road, so I'm going to take us to the finish line, okay?
Sure.
When the Sixers traded Al Horford, that pick was a 2025 first-round pick that is protected.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get it done this upcoming season with Embiid, you could trade him, tank for a year, get that draft pick back from OKC, and then have a top 6, top 7 pick in 2025. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm some expert on the draft, but I'm pretty sure that in today's world, it feels like there's less busts going on at the top of the draft than in past years when Michael Olowokandi was number 1 overall.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the potential problem with that plan, one, I think what you're trading, what you get in return for Embiid or what you should expect to get in return for Embiid, combine that with Maxey and potentially DeAnthony Melton as well. Like it might be hard to finish with the bottom 6 record. And even if you do, say you keep the pick in 25, it just rolls over to 26. It's only top 4 protected in both 26 and 2027. It also would then delay when the pick conveys to Brooklyn. So if the OKC pick doesn't convey to 26, then the Brooklyn pick can't convey until 2028 at the earliest. So I think you probably just want to get those over with as quickly as possible. But that should be a factor in the back of their minds. And that was one of the reasons why Houston went on this spending spree this summer, because they owe a top 4 protected pick to who else? OKC this upcoming season. So it does not behoove them to be as bad as they were.
I was actually going to say that Houston owes picks to everybody, but go on.
Yeah, well, OKC has picks owed from everybody, so
that's true.
That much is true.
It's just, and I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse, but it does feel like that this James Harden bring the James Harden in this James Harden situation, I think is causing way more stress than people are willing to admit. And I think that the fact that Embiid and Harden have been around each other multiple times this offseason, the fact that, Harden seems to not want to back off his Clippers or bust stance, and the fact that, it appears that, Nick Nurse was hired because of Daryl Morey more so than anything else. It just has to make you wonder, does Daryl Morey need to accept the reality that doing a Ben Simmons with James Harden might do more harm than good here?
Yeah, so I actually wrote about that at Forbes today because I agree with you. You can run the risk of, okay, the Clippers aren't offering us anything of value. We're going to hold out until September. We're going to have them report to camp. In theory, James Harden has to be on his best behavior because unlike Ben Simmons, who is under contract long-term, James Harden is guaranteed to become a free agent next offseason. He is on too short of a deal. He cannot sign an extension with the Sixers or any team that trades for him. And if he's, angry about how the Sixers handled his negotiations leading up to free agency, or based on all reports, didn't negotiate with him, it sounds like they were just trying to avoid a tampering penalty again and just did not speak to him. And that annoyed him because that's not how business is done in the NBA usually. So if he wants to, get this 9-figure contract next summer, you can't loaf through half a season disgruntled, taking plays off, anything like that, because why is anyone going to commit to you if you do that? So that's the gamble from the Sixers side.
Right.
The alternative is we've seen disgruntled James Harden and what type of a circus can come with that. Jimmy Butler made the same gamble, frankly, back in 2018 when he, forced his way out of Minnesota. He was also in a contract year. He didn't care. Yep. He still turned the team into an absolute circus. And I think that's, those are the two competing things you have to weigh if you're Daryl Morey and the Sixers. Are you willing to run the risk of James Harden turning your team into a sideshow and wasting another year of Embiid's prime, especially when he's giving comments like this, suggesting that maybe he would be open to moving on? But then you go to the alternative of, well, the Sixers are so strapped in terms of assets, this might be one of their last best chances to replenish that cupboard in the Embiid era. So from that sense, you understand why they're slow playing it and not just doing James Harden for whatever expiring contracts the Clippers are willing to offer. You need to get something of real value in return, whether it's one of their young players, Bones Highland, KJ Martin, Terrence Mann. They can offer up to 2 first-round picks and up to 2 first-round pick swaps. Maybe this is your way of replenishing that a bit. And then you go back and it's well, okay, you get 28 and 30 first-round picks for James Harden. What is that doing for Joel Embiid right now?
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm kind of parroting other people's questions, so take it with a grain of salt. But what do you say to the people who say, but Bryan, why can't you just take what the Clippers have to offer you, those 2 first-round picks, let's say, and 3 expiring contracts, and just swing it over to a team like Toronto and get Pascal Siakam? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, if that's on the table both ways, then sure, absolutely do that. But I don't think the Clippers are offering that type of value, and I don't think another star is going to be available for whatever the Sixers get for James Harden. I think they would have to throw in extra stuff, and the problem is they don't have a ton of extra stuff to throw in. So, that's what I would say is I understand why the Sixers are slow playing it to the extent that they are. But, you do run the risk of a disgruntled James Harden, basically tanking the first however long of the season until you actually trade him. The counterpoint to that would be, well, maybe the Clippers suffer an early season injury and maybe they realize we really need James Harden. Okay, now we're going to get serious. Now we're willing to offer these picks or some of these young players, because Kawhi and Paul George both have player options after next season. Like, both guys can opt out. And if you're the Clippers, you cannot afford for this 4 or 5 year run to end with one conference finals appearance and nothing else to show for it.
Who gets moved first, Lillard or Harden?
I think Lillard. I mean, I think at this point it's clear he's going to Miami. It's just, can Miami find a third team to send Tyler Hero to? That third team combines whatever they give up for Hero with everything Miami has to offer.
Right.
Miami needs to be serious. They can't be trying to hold out like Caleb Martin or Nikola Jovic. Like, you're giving up everything that is not Jimmy or Bam, and just
can we just chew on what you just said there, that they might balk at those two players? Like,
yeah,
are we like? I'm sorry, but like, if that's Miami's issue, like, oh man, Caleb Martin, Nikola Jovic, like, I'm sorry, but like, do you really have so little faith that you can develop somebody else? You can find some other nobody who like played in like some random school, like, Weaver State or something, or like Lillard played at. Like, I mean, come on, Miami. Like, you guys don't have confidence in yourself to develop somebody else?
Yeah, I would argue both the Heat and Clippers are being a bit unserious with their trade offers right now. And I'm sure, we've heard reports that Philly is asking for an unreasonably high return for Embiid, which I also believe. We don't know exactly what Portland wants. The reports are, 4 first-round picks and a high-level prospect or 2, which is going to be a reach for them to get it from Miami. But Miami can get there, and the Clippers can get there, frankly. The Clippers have more than enough to make it worth the Sixers' while to trade for James Harden. And I think if they look around the West and see the Lakers potentially got substantially better, the Suns potentially got substantially better, the Warriors will see, but very well could have gotten better, and the Clippers have kind of just tread water this offseason. Like, you might need to make this kind of a move to be in actual contention in the West. But to go back to your original question, I think because it is so clear that Dame is like focused on Miami and only Miami, it's now just Miami. I think their perspective is, well, it's only us, so we don't have to offer everything. All right, Portland, go find a better offer, and then we'll, give us the opportunity to top it. And maybe Portland hasn't done that because Dame and his agent have been so clear it's Miami or bust for me. But I don't blame Portland for taking their time and trying to canvass all 28 other teams, because if you're giving away Damian Lillard for that price, you're setting an extremely bad precedent. You could be setting your franchise back.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like the Harden and Lillard trades are two completely different issues, because I feel like the problem for Portland is they got a million guards. Like, they've drafted a gazillion guards, and when the problem is that one of the main returns for Miami is Tyler Hero, if you're Portland, you're kind of shrugging your shoulders like, I don't really need Tyler Hero. You know what I mean? And it's like, whereas with the Clippers, they genuinely need a point guard. They genuinely need a guy like James Harden. In fact, the fact they didn't go after Chris Paul, I think, surprised some people. And like, for them, it feels the Clippers are just being like, they're being like, greedy. And Portland is just basically telling Miami, you blink first. I feel like it's like two completely different situations for why these things aren't happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Clippers to some extent might be trying Miami's strategy of like, all right, Philly, go find another team that's willing to offer more for James Harden than whatever it is that we're offering. And maybe no other team wants to do that. And I think the other tricky part of this, which I know Charles Barkley touched on recently, again, James Harden's going to be a free agent this offseason. So, you have to, if you are trading for him, are you confident that you're going to re-sign him? Do you know the dollar amount and year amount that you're willing to re-sign him to? Because if not, if you think he's just a 1-year rental, that probably affects how much you're willing to give up to get him. I would say from the Sixers side, they would probably be like, all right, well, look at what Toronto did with Kawhi Leonard. He was a 1-year rental. He ended up being a 1-year rental, and they still had to give up legitimate stuff to get him. Like, you are all in right now. You don't have the option of, we'll just give you like some scraps and bits and pieces and nothing of real value because the Sixers just you're not going to trade him.
Bryan Toporek, he is the co-host of the NBA podcast. He is also a writer for Forbes Sports, a contributor for Liberty Ballers. You can follow him on Twitter at @Toporek, and he joined us here on the Elite Acura Hotline. Bryan, I don't think we answered that many questions, but I think at least we tried.
Yeah, I think that's the story of the Sixers offseason right now, unfortunately.
Sixers offseason, it's the story of the NBA offseason. I mean, for goodness sake, I mean, I feel like half the teams in the league, you can like rip apart their moves and build up all their moves. Like, it's just like, I mean, it's like the Celtics got Porzingis, but they lost Marcus Smart. The Suns are signing everyone on the dirt cheap value, and they recouped about 200 second-round picks. You know, the Warriors got Chris Paul, but they lost Jordan Poole. What does that mean? You know, it's like we can do this with every team at this point. It just this NBA offseason has felt like somebody was running NBA 2K on like simulator mode.
Yep, that is just the world we live in with this new collective bargaining agreement. I think there's going to be a lot more player movement over the next 12 months, too.
Well, I think there's someone behind you who wants your attention, so I'll let you go.
Thank you. Yep. Looks like my son just finished dinner.
All right. Have fun, Bryan.
All right. Take care, Josh.
And Bryan Toporek joined us on the Elite Acura Hotline. Visit Elite Acura during the Summer of Performance event located on Route 73 North in Maple Shade, online at eliteacura.com. Thanks again to Bryan Toporek for joining the show. Some great stuff from him there. Yeah, I mean, before we move on from the Sixers NBA stuff, I just got to say, like, for all the people who are complaining about the Sixers offseason, I feel like we can rip apart every team's offseason at this point. Like, you look around the NBA, like the Eastern Conference, the Milwaukee Bucks. Oh, well, they're just running it back. Didn't get better. Celtics gave up Smart, got Porzingis. Does that equal itself out? I don't know. Miami, if they get Lillard, great. What do they give up to get Lillard? I don't know yet. We got to find out. Longer it takes, the worse Miami could potentially be. The Hawks, meh. Next. You know, the Bulls, are they ever going to be healthy? Do you consider trading for Zach LaVine? We know Toronto will be worse this year. The Cavs will be better this year. The Knicks will probably be a little bit better at minimum this year. I mean, you don't think that Dante DiVincenzo joining his former teammates Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson is going to be for nothing? Of course not. So for the Sixers, it's not like every team around them has gotten significantly better. But again, like Miami, the longer they sit around and not get a deal done, the more detrimental it may be for their chances to win next year. I think that is the balancing act. If you're Miami and you're Philadelphia, you got to make moves as soon as possible to put yourself in a position to not be behind the eight ball when the season starts coming up in October. All right, we got DMs to get to. I see James chiming in on the DMs and also text board messages coming in at 609-403-0973. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Monday night.
Here's what you missed on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
It's not to say that it hasn't worked, because they're a lot better now than when the whole process became known to everybody with Sam Hinkie and everybody else. They said, trust the process. Joel Embiid is going to be the center point. That
became his nickname.
Exactly, yeah, and he lived up to it. I'm not leaning in the hot sauce, but he leaned into the process because he knew it was either going to rise or fall based on his success, based on if he had failure with the Philadelphia 76ers. So I'm with you in terms of that, with the organization failing him, and yeah, there has to be accountability. But maybe we should have seen this coming, because that's what desperate organizations do. When they want to matter, they feel they have to matter. They want to matter sooner than later. And they have the process, but then they don't take time to see it through.
97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Matt Blatt Kia wants to give you independence. Yes, independence. Like freedom from down payments.
I got approved with 0 down.
Freedom from high interest rates.
I got 2.49% for 72 months.
Freedom from overpriced new vehicles.
I got $6,000 off MSRP.
But most important, freedom from your old car.
I was told I was stuck in my lease. Matt Black Kia got me released.
Low 2.49% financing, up to 72 months on every new EV in stock, and 0 down on every Kia in stock. Plus, get $6,000 off MSRP on every new Kia EV in stock. Finance your future, not your past. Even first-time buyers can drive with peace of mind with our exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. Go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes through KMF, Kia Niro, and EV. 635 customer cash plus $22.50 dealer discount off MSRP. Expires 8/5/23. Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Hey, this is Josh from 97.3 ESPN. If your air conditioning isn't keeping you cool, or if you're worried about sky-high electric bills, I recommend you call Jenkins Plumbing and Heating today about a new system from American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning or a Mitsubishi ductless system. Take advantage of financing of up to $15,000 from South Jersey Gas or Atlantic City Electric. New AC system can save you 25 to 35% on your AC bill. Call Jenkins at 609-641-6440, online at jenkinsandsons.com.
My little brother's friends have been camped out at our place for 2 days straight. 3. It's because of the Xfinity 10G network. Internet that can handle a house full of screens at once, with basically no interruptions. And it's only getting faster. When I was their age, internet like this was a pipe dream.
You sound like my grandpa.
Please go home.
The next generation 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Now through September 21st, new customers can get 200 megabit internet with unlimited data on the next generation Xfinity 10G network for just $25 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. Plus, upgrade to gig and save $20 a month over Verizon. Go to Xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service. Actual speeds vary, not guaranteed. Savings compares Xfinity Gig to Verizon Gig.
Hey, it's Mike Gill. Experience a culinary journey like no other at Trio North Wildwood. Chef Gus Zimmerman creates mouth-watering dishes that showcase the freshest ingredients with something for everyone, including gluten-free options so that all can indulge in the wonderful cuisine. From their juicy pork chop to their savory crab shrimp cakes, every dish is prepared with care and precision. Book your table on Resi and experience the ultimate casual fine dining experience at Trio North Wildwood, 700 New Jersey Avenue, North Wildwood. Chef-driven, quality-focused, TrioNW.com.
With GMF financing to qualified buyers, excludes Corvette, excludes fire sales.
This is it. The time has come for Bennett Chevrolet's biggest sale of the year. Bennett's Summer Sell Down Spectacular. First off, you get Bennett's exclusive GM supplier employee pricing on new Chevys. Yes, you pay what we pay, not a penny more. And unlike many other dealers, Bennett doesn't charge over MSRP. In fact, you can even get a new Chevy at thousands below MSRP. And there's available 1.9% financing. Looking for used? Our selection's never been better. Right now, Bennett is paying a record $10,000 minimum for any clunker towards any pre-owned in stock. That's a minimum 10 grand for any rat trap, any way you can get it to our lot. Imagine how much we'll pay for a good trade. Plus, Bennett Chevy's non-commissioned sales team is paid on your satisfaction. Chevrolet during our summer sell down spectacular. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Don't forget Game Night is brought to you by Jenkins and Sons. One call does it all. If your air conditioning is on the fritz or you're trying to save money on your electric bill, call Jenkins for new information about how you can save on your electric bill. Call 609-641-6440 or visit them online at jenkinsandsons.com. Get to you guys' messages now as we start into the final segment of the Power Hour. George and Summer Storm will get to your text in just a bit at 609-403-0973. But first, James over on the DMs chimed in first. We get the guys in order. James, hey, Josh, your thoughts on the Phillies acquiring Adam Duvall and reacquiring Dave Roberts? I think the Robertson is very unlikely because it's not because I think the Mets are going to be contenders. It's because I think the Mets will be delusional enough to believe that they might still be in this. The Mets right now are sitting at 43 and 50. And if you're the Mets, are you going to trade a guy in Robertson to a team in your own division who's ahead of you by about 8 games? I don't see it. I think the Mets could come out and maybe go on a little winning streak, maybe start believing in themselves a little bit, and then convince themselves they by its deadline they can be competitive. I think that could seriously happen. I don't think the Mets are going to be a major competitor this year, but their upcoming schedule is kind of weird because the White Sox not a very good team. You got them this upcoming week. Boston and New York, Yankees. That's the 5 games after that. The Mets. Boston and Yankees, the Red Sox and Yankees are both teams at the bottom of their standings, but they're both better than the Mets. And then the Mets got Washington and Kansas City at the deadline. So, I mean, maybe if you're the Mets, if you can rationalize taking, 2 out of 3 against the White Sox, trying to get 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox, splitting the series with the Yankees, let's say, and then going into that Washington series and winning a couple games, maybe you can rationalize not trading Robertson. I feel like the Robertson thing is very unlikely. Duvall is interesting because Duvall is a guy who, when he has been healthy, he has been an extremely productive power hitter. But he's only really been healthy for a few years here and there. So I don't think you have to give up a lot to get him. The aforementioned Red Sox are the bottom of the standings in the AL East. You could probably get Duvall for an inexpensive player. Maybe you offer them a guy like Musiati, who's hot right now at AAA, but his organization is not part of your future plans. Maybe you trade a guy like Musiati for Duvall and say, hey, Adam, come in here and just be a right-handed option for us off the bench. I mean, Duvall's not having a great season, not having a horrible year either. I mean, he is slugging .525 this year with 7 homers and 24 RBI in 34 games. So he's not playing horrible, but he is definitely nowhere near the guy in 2021 that hit 38 home runs at 131 RBI. I don't think he's that guy anymore. I do think, though, that as a fielder, he definitely has some help as well, because aside from being a guy with pop in his bat, he is a guy that he does have a gold glove in his career. And he is a career 98-3 fielder. So he's a very good fielder. So maybe if you were looking for a little extra defense, a little extra offense, James, I think the Duvall move makes some sense. It's a good call by you. George at Summers Point chimes in at 609-403-0973. Says, hey, Josh, you are exactly right about there being a lot of drama in the NBA this offseason. The one common denominator in most of this drama is that all these teams are not winning to the point where they are champions. When you're winning, you usually do not have all this drama. We have been spoiled by the Phillies and Eagles' recent success, and all we have to talk about for the Sixers is the drama. George Summers Point goes on to ask, do you realistically see the Sixers getting better this summer so they can go from drama to championship? Thanks as always, George in Summers Point. George, I don't know. I think it just depends on what can you facilitate getting for James Harden. I think that's the crux of them getting from drama to champions, because the problem with Harden is Harden has more value than Ben Simmons did when you traded Simmons. Harden is a guy who's coming off a year leading the NBA in assists. Harden is a player who is talented enough to still be a great player on a contender. The problem is that only certain teams does he make sense for. And it feels like right now, as Bryan Toporek was bringing up, it's almost like a stalemate between the Sixers and the Clippers. The Sixers are asking for too much. The Clippers are trying to get Harden for a bunch of expiring nothing burger contracts. So, George Summers Point, my answer to you is, can they get there? Yes. Will they get there? It's a 50-50 proposition. I realistically see a way they could land Pascal Siakam. And I see a scenario where they could get Zach LaVine. The question is, if you're the Bulls and you're the Raptors, are you willing to accept what the Sixers would send your way? If you offer them what the Clippers want to offer, you might say no for Zach LaVine. I don't know what the Raptors are doing. I think the Raptors are very confused. It's why the reports are out there that Siakam is not interested in staying in Toronto because it seems like the franchise is rudderless at this point. They are basically a ship with no captain, for lack of a better term. So I see a realistic path, George Zimmer's point. The problem is, as Bryan Toporek brought up, it feels like everyone involved is just being stubborn. And that's a problem because when everyone is stubborn, nothing gets done. All right, before we get out of here, real quick thought. I wanted to mention about Wimbledon because I'm a big tennis guy. We saw a little bit of tennis history yesterday, a little sports history, because it was the third largest gap in age in players at Wimbledon. And Djokovic went 5 rounds with Alcaraz. And Alcaraz basically is the future of tennis right now. And it'll be interesting to see, does he become the next star in tennis? Or does he turn into an Andy Roddick? Remember, Andy Roddick was supposed to be the next big superstar in tennis. He had the power, he had the athleticism, and it didn't work out. Can Alcaraz be the next guy? Or is he just another guy? I'm interested to see what happens then. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Catch you tomorrow.